Dan, it's good to see you. It's in Geneva. I had always wanted to come to Geneva and speak to you. Of course, one never imagined it would be under these circumstances. So very glad to be here, Dan, and very glad that you could join me and the readership of Ground Views.
Well, thanks, Sanjana. It's great to see you here. I wish it were under slightly happier circumstances, but still, it's good to see you. And I never thought that I'd be interviewed live by Ground Views in Geneva, but that just shows that you're going places. Congratulations.
Thank you, Dan. We spoke last a couple of months ago, and I think those were different times for Sri Lanka as well. You might disagree with me, but in terms of engagement with the Sri Lankan government, I think you are unique in this regard and in this sense, in that I think in your interactions with Ground Views and its readership, quite frankly, you've been the only voice that people have had access to, even to get angry against, or to shout against, or to debate with, however vicious that debate might have sometimes been, even though I try to control it, you've been the only voice. So in that sense, I think there is that recognition as well, in the sense of the loss that certainly the Ground Views readership will feel in the privileged position that you have and that you will soon leave to go back to Sri Lanka. But more on that later on. I just wanted to set the context that we were going to start off with, and in that frame, just some rapid fire questions, yes or no, or one sentence, and these, I kid you not, are actual sentiments sent in to Ground Views, on occasion which I have not published, but I thought I'll fire it off to you as well. And this, by the way, is in no particular order and certainly not influenced by a choice of your wonderful wife here, Sandra. Dan, a commenter always says that you have always had a good choice in women. I kid you not, this is an actual comment that I didn't publish, but I thought I'll ask you, is this true or not?
Well, thank you. I'd like to think so, but I really think I've made the best choice third time round. I've gotten better as I went on, and now it's leveled off at a high spot.
Will there be a crisis at home after that answer?
Well, you'd better ask Sanja.
Yeah, but she doesn't want to be on the tape.
I don't think so.
Are you a racist?
A racist?
Yeah.
A singular racist or a Tamil racist?
I don't know.
What kind of racist?
The question I think came from a member of the Tamil community.
Well, what I can say is that if I am a racist, I'm probably quite unique in that I'm the only racist to have been elected chairperson rapporteur of the Intergovernmental Working Group on the effective implementation of the Durban Declaration and Programme of Action, which is, of course, the UN, to do with the UN World Conference of 2001 on the elimination of racism and all forms of racial discrimination.
Could that be cruel irony, because a racist too could be elected to it? Yes or no?
Can 192 states be wrong? That wrong?
Are you a fascist?
I risked my life in the struggle against both the LTTE and the JBP, which, from a strictly political science point of view, are the closest that Sri Lanka has come to fascist movements. So I think the answer is self-evident.
Dayan Jayatilleka is a hypocrite. To which you would say?
To which I would say, what's the reason? What's the evidence? I mean, give me the throw something at me and I'll answer. That's just a label. If I were a hypocrite, I wouldn't be out of a job, would I?
We can come back to that. Dayan Jayatilleka has been an apparatchik of the Rajapaksa regime and has whitewashed serious human rights abusers by this government.
Tell me one serious human rights abuse that I have whitewashed. I have never spoken in defense of anything that troubled my conscience. So you've never heard, nobody in this council has heard me defending anything like the killing of the P1-5, the students, or the ACF-17, or La Santa Vikramatunga. Absolutely not. I've just not allowed pro-LTTE propaganda to triumph, but I've never at any time defended the killings by any government, the intentional killings or the witting, targeting of unarmed, innocent civilians.
Which
that I've never done. And if I've been an apparatchik, as I said, I wouldn't be losing my job.
Which, I mean, feeds into the next question and the last one in the rapid fire session. You've been silent on thousands of citizens who've been killed during the last stages of the war in Sri Lanka this year.
There is absolutely no proof that thousands of citizens were wittingly killed by the Sri Lankan state during the last stages of the war. The citizens were placed in the line of fire by the tigers who held them as a human shield. And all evidence, including that of the IDPs, is that the Sri Lankan armed forces tried their best to save the lives of these people, mounting daring operations to secure their release, eschewing, i.e. avoiding the use of air power, which I can't say for many other armed forces in the world. So I really think that that's like one of those "have you stopped beating your wife" questions. I do not think there was such a targeting or killing of thousands of civilians by the Sri Lankan side in the last stage of the conflict.
You've had an interview with a fairly well-known author and blogger, David Blacker, a couple of weeks ago, that I also featured on Ground Views as well. It was a fairly light interview. We got to know about the nature of the man as opposed to the nature of the man behind his official responsibilities in Geneva. I think I would like this conversation to be a bit more serious, and perhaps begin at the end. You find yourself at the end, whether it is an end of your diplomatic career. It is certainly an end for a chapter in your life in Geneva.
Yeah.
It is unexpected for many of us,
Yep.
even for those of us who, in the civil society community, certainly felt no love towards you and your office and what you did. But I think the shock, maybe not the horror, but the shock resonates very widely, Dayan, and that is telling something for us in Sri Lanka. What does that suggest to you here in Geneva?
Well, it wasn't entirely a surprise to me because of a formative experience I had as a teenager, and that was the firing of my father, Mervyn De Silva, from the editorship of the Ceylon Daily News by the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Bandaranaike. Now, Mervyn was known as sympathetic to the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. He was a highly respected editor who had succeeded in raising the circulation and the standards of the Lake House press, but he was fired. So that was something that was always at the back of my mind even when I took this job. So I was on the balls of my feet, as it were. It's something that I thought could always
So help me understand, Sri Lankans don't like success? Is it the Irisiya always?
Well, not always.
The apocryphal story of...
I don't think it's true of Sri Lankans.
Yes. Certain
because there's been an outpouring of support, sympathy, solidarity from the newspapers, from the public.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's something wrong with Sri Lanka. But if you take the history of some of our personalities who are far more outstanding than I am, such as Ambassador Hamilton Shirley Amarasinghe, he became the chairman of the Law of the Sea Conference because of representations by other governments. The Sri Lankan government was about to yank him back home. And then we have the syndrome that the Bible talks of, that is, a prophet is without honor only in his own land. As I said, it's not so much the land, but it's the system.
But the system is...
Neither civil society nor the state, and I say this advisory, neither civil society nor the state in Sri Lanka has conferred the kind of recognition that would have been conferred on, say, Justice Veeramantri in any other country, or on Godfrey Gunatilaka for that matter. So there is the relationship with the intelligentsia, the relationship between the system and the intelligentsia is far more fraught in Sri Lanka than it is in other parts of the world, including other parts of South